Welcome back to the NYGunGuys podcast. This is John.
My name's Taylor.
Taylor's, you're weird as fuck, dude.
I know. We were laughing about something before we hit the record button, and we just went with it. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you what it is, but anyway. So, John,
The
how you doing
weird.
today?
Just so you know, the guy's weird as
Oh,
fuck.
in case our listeners probably already know that.
I certainly hope they do.
Well,
they've probably run away. We'd probably have a lot more if you weren't as weird.
maybe. Well, some people I think jive with my weirdness, man, because they're like, finally, somebody who's not like just some uptight asshole.
Not a robot.
I'm not calling you an uptight asshole, but You're
calling me, and you have no idea how
No.
tight of an asshole I am.
Anyway, it's too early for that.
All right, what are we talking about?
Hi, John. Well, today, folks, in case you didn't read the title or
You're weird as
click
hell.
on the link, I
All
know.
right, Go ahead.
We're going to be talking about one of the most famous rifle designs, patterns, and pretty much the world, man. We're going to be talking about the K98K,
Nice.
the Carabiner 98 Kurz. So it's a very interesting rifle, and I brought by a couple of variations that we're going to talk about. But there's many different variations of the K98 or the K98K rather, and it's something that I got into more recently within the past year or two. As everyone knows, I was like really big into Mosins and really big into like Eastern Bloc stuff, and I'm like, you know what? Let me maybe try getting into some German stuff. I was always interested, but the one thing that scares me about German stuff is that there's just so much to learn, and to get your feet wet in it, it's kind of costly.
Well, there's a lot of fake shit too, right?
There's a lot of fake shit, and somebody could put a stamp on a gun and it could double or triple the value.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're looking at, or you don't know what factory code or what Waffen-Up number you're looking at, like obviously there's books and the internet and everything, but to the novice, it's kind of like the cost of entry to get into it is kind of high, and then even then, you don't know 100% what you're getting if it's something that's legit, obviously, unless it has provenance, bring back, etc.
Do you know 100% that the things that you have are legit?
Oh yeah, these are legit, and they're legit for the one reason of because they are what they are. They're not representing anything like on this K98 over here. There's not like a death's head. There's not SS runes. It's not something that I invested a crap load of money into.
Okay.
So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna dive right into it. But basically, just a little back history. Now, the K98 has a really long history. Basically, it was derived from the Gewehr 88 rifle, and then over the years, the Gewehr 88 went through a number of changes. From black powder to smokeless powder, and then it got shortened down. So this is what we're going to be talking about, the K98K specifically. So like I said, it's Carabiner 98 Kurz, often abbreviated to the Car 98K or K98K. Bolt-action rifle chambered for the 7.92 by 57 millimeter Mauser cartridge that was adopted on June 21st, 1935 as a standard service rifle by the German Wehrmacht. It was basically the final development in a long line of Mauser military rifles. Basically, even though semi-automatic rifles became the norm in World War II, towards the end of World War II, it remained the primary German service rifle until the end of the war in 1955. And at the end of the war, millions were captured by the Soviets and then given to aid subsequently to other countries as time went on. So you often find these in Africa, you'll find these in the Middle East, you'll find these in Vietnam. People were still fighting them in Vietnam. American soldiers were still getting shot at by them. So, they were made by like a crap load of people, and it's estimated that they built like 14 million of them or somewhere along those lines.
It's a good number.
Yeah. It's a really, really interesting rifle, and it's one that I'm kind of getting my feet wet into. I have a few of them. So let me get into the specific rifles that I had brought today. So, John, this rifle that I have over here, if you want to pick it up, hold it,
sure. Take
a look at it, examine it, take it off the table. That is a 1940 K98K made by the Berlin Lübecker Maschinenfabriken factory, code 237. So the Germans on their guns during the war used factory codes, so allies that captured the weapons wouldn't know, hey, this factory is in Berlin, or this factory is in Munich, or this factory somewhere else. So they had a series of codes set up that they stamped on the gun. Now, that gun specifically has lots of Waffen-Ups on it. Waffen-Up is basically the eagle over swastika.
Yeah.
As, some people know, some people might not know. And I bought a reproduction sling for it. Now, the cool thing about that gun is, John, that's what's known as a Russian capture. And this is why when I said that gun I bought, it is what it is. It's not faked. It's not anything. It's a Russian capture. So what happened was after World War II, the Russians captured a shitload of those things because they were fighting them on the Eastern Front. And, Russia during World War II lost more men. Russia on the Eastern Front alone lost more men in battle than the Americans did in all of World War II. They took they took a beating, the Russians. I mean, they won, but they lost a lot of men. And they captured a shitload of those guns. And then what happened was they're like, well, World War II was a big war. We had World War I, so there's probably going to be a World War III at some point. So they took those guns, they refurbed them, they fixed them up, and then they put them away in long-term storage. Then they would give them out, like I said, to this military aid to other countries. And then after a while in like the 90s, they're like, you know what? We don't need these things anymore. They're pretty obsolete. So they sold them off to the U.S. as surplus back when, we could get surplus from Russia. Unfortunately, now we can't. And then they made their way onto the U.S. collector's market. They were pretty modestly priced at first, and you were able to find some pretty cool gems in there, like rare receiver codes and things. But generally, they're mismatched. They're not all numbers matching. Because what the Russians did was they took a gun, they took all the parts off of it, they stripped it down, they inspected each and every part, and then they reassembled them. So Ivan took a bolt from the pile and put it in another gun, made sure it had space.
Ivan.
Yeah, Ivan.
Can I ask you a question about this firearm?
Yeah, sure.
What are the Asian markings here?
Asian markings? What are you?
Yeah. These
talking
look
about?
like some Asian type markings. I can't really see that well. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, no, they're not Asian markings. Move the gun away from the mic. Oh, those are Waffenums. So basically,
no, they're not. Dude.
Okay, well, if
the other one is for sure.
Yes, those.
But this looks weird as fuck.
No, it's an eagle over a number. So that represents a repair depot, some sort of arms depot that they went through. There's an eagle over a number.
Now that I'm not looking at it upside down, it does.
You fuck, you blind ass.
I am, dude. It's very small.
Well, then why don't you put on your glasses?
Well, because I didn't need my glasses to see distance.
All right.
I mean, no, but when you look at it a certain way.
Right. So those eagle over numbers represent like a depot, an armorer, something that the gun has passed through and was stamped. They also have them on the stocks and all little parts.
Because I see the one over here, which is, jeez, I don't even know where it is now. Right here, that's more clear. It doesn't have the numbers.
Yeah, that's an actual Waffenum.
Yeah.
But the other one, I forget that. I think those are called Waffenums as well. But basically, they're numbers. They're an eagle over a set of numbers, and that number you could look them up. It's kind of mysterious. Like some people know for certain. Oh, that's an inspector mark at this depot, and then the rifle went out from there. Or some people are like, you know what? We don't know. That one I picked out for my safe because it's covered in cool markings. Like there's a lot of cool little things on there. And also the 1942 37 is kind of a rarer date, from what I hear, the factory 237. But one thing about the Russian guns, which I was saying, was they're mismatched. They're all mismatched. And generally they have, John's handing me back the gun. Thank you. So I can look at it a little closer and talk to you. They're almost all the time certainly mismatched, unless the Russians captured like a pristine one, and then they just,
put it right back out.
Put it away. Well, they didn't put it back out. They just
put it in storage.
Yeah, put it in storage. So generally with the Russian capture guns, you're going to see on the receiver or the barrel. Yeah, that's the receiver in this case, and what looks like an X, but really what it is crossed swords. That's the Russian refurb stamp, basically saying, hey, this gun went through us. Oftentimes you'll see a dark red or brown shellac on the wood. It kind of comes across as reddish or brown. K98s naturally were unfinished, I believe, or either that or they had an oil finish on them, not a shellac, so they're a much more natural wood color. So the RC K98s, RC is Russian capture, has, a shellac on it. Now, some people say, well, I want to clean the shellac off the gun and restore it back to its original, finish. You could do that, but oftentimes what people are finding now is that the Russian capture guns are harder and harder to come by that are actually as they were refurbed by the Russians, because a lot of people restored them. A company called Mitchell's Mausers took them, refurbished them, kind of duped collectors into thinking they were original guns, but really they weren't. So that's a whole nother story. But these represent a really good value for somebody who wants to get into K98s, who wants to get into German small arms, small arms rifles, K98s, and not spend a crap load of money. They are going up in value. You used to be able to get them really cheap, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing it. But this gun and my other K98 Russian Capture, I paid $650 for. And now I see them going around that, maybe $800, depending on condition, factory, markings, etc. And that's the big thing with the German guns that I really had to kind of brush up on was, what does this marking mean? What's that marking mean? What's this marking mean? And it just spirals from there, man. So this gun has a lot of really cool markings on it. So John, those markings. Oops, shit, sorry. Bumped the mic. Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, it has like a 214. It looks like, or a 214.
So that's an Eagle over 214. I don't know what that means specifically, but generally those Eagle over numbers means like a depot that the gun went through.
There's like so many of those stamps on there. It's like,
I know. So on the barrel, there's an Eagle over 274. The receiver, there's Waffenamps. There's 2 cross X's on the receiver. This gun has a lot of cool markings, and that's why I got it. Also on the stock, so underneath the shellac, people actually find some pretty cool stock markings. When I kind of started wiping away the shellac on the stock a little bit, just to lighten it up, I saw that there was a stamp on the stock, an Eagle over number. It's kind of hard to see, but so I left the finish as intact as possible. But the biggest things with the RC K98s, like I said, the stocks are going to be like a reddish brown shellac. There's going to be a number stamped on the stock, the serial number. Basically, like the Russians do that. Like they say, okay, this is 2174, and then the receiver's 2174. So that's something they did. It's a vertical stamp on the receiver. The Yugoslavian reworked K98s have a horizontal stamp on the stock. So the Russians have a vertical. The Yugoslavians have a K98, have the serial number horizontal on the K98s. And the Yugoslavians also rebuilt these as well. And they're actually a pretty good value as well. So, I'm going to put this one down here. And I'm going to talk about the other gun that I brought that has a really interesting history to it. This gun here is a Polish WZ-29 Mauser. Now, some people are like, what's a WZ-29? Well, basically, it's a K98 that the Poles made from 1930 to 1939. Or 29 to 39, basically. It's kind of at the end of 29 into 1939. And we all know what happened in 1939. Germany invaded Poland and such the start of World War II. Basically, it's the Karabinek WZ-29 Polish bolt-action short rifle based on the German K98 AZ. Now, the K98 AZ was kind of an intermediary between one of the later Gewehr 88 models and the Karabiner 98K, the Kurz. Basically, the easiest way to tell an AZ from K98K is it has a stacking swivel on the end of, like, underneath the barrel. That's the easiest giveaway to an AZ model. Basically, one of the identifying attributes to a WZ-29, to a K98 AZ, includes a 9805 style mass bayonet lug ending directly beneath the front sight and wing protective ears to enter the side of the front sight, to either side of the front sight blade. So that's what this one has as well. There's 2 different variations. The cavalry model has a turn-down bolt handle, and the early version still have that stacking hook. So this is an infantry model with a straight bolt handle. Then the cavalry models had a turn-down bolt handle. The interesting thing about these guns, though, are that the Polish Mausers are really rare. And there's 2 different kinds of that I really see out there. Again, I'm not the most expert on these, but just because I have one, I just kind of looked into it a little bit. This one is scrubbed of all receiver markings. I have 2 of these, and this one's the better condition of the 2, so that's why I brought it. The Poles exported these to Spain during the Spanish Civil War. The nationalists were fighting the Republicans. The Republicans were the left, communist, so to speak, faction, and the nationalists were the right, military dictatorship.
In other countries, like Republicans versus liberals, they have different meanings.
Right.
Well,
the republic,
right,
republic,
right.
An actual republic.
Right.
That's what they were kind of
right.
going for. So the interesting thing is, like I said, these were exported to Spain during the Spanish Civil War, and they were scrubbed of all receiver markings. Now, you'll find some that still have the receiver markings on them. They'll say FB Radom, 29, WZ29 on them. The big giveaway that these are Polish. If there's no receiver markings, how can you tell one is Polish? Well, there's two ways you could do it. They often get confused with the VZ24, the Czech, because of the Z in a circle on the receiver or on the bolt. That is a big giveaway that it's either Polish or Czech. They use the same markings. But the biggest giveaway that it's Polish is this. I'm going to show John over here. This sling bar on the gun. If you notice, a normal K98 doesn't have that sling bar. This is the biggest giveaway that this is a Polish gun. On the left side of the gun, there's a sling bar in front of the disassembly hole for the bolt. Behind the disassembly hole for the bolt. A normal German K98 doesn't have that. That is the biggest indicator just from looking at it that it's a Polish gun. Also, the sling swivels on the front of the gun, there's two. There's a lower one and a side one. That's meant for infantry and cavalry. So there's two ways you could use this, over the shoulder or around the back. Now, this gun that I have here is extremely well made. I'm definitely sure it's Arsenal refurbished because the whole gun is just this deep, rich blue. And you can see some pitting, just very slight pitting on the receiver that the blue is over. So I know this gun was re-blued. It probably saw service and was probably re-arsenaled and then imported into the U.S. It doesn't have any import marks on it, which tells me it was imported prior to 1960. Was that 62 or 68? I think it was 62. One of the 2 years that didn't require import marks. But it does have an 8mm. The importer stamped 8mm on the left side of the receiver. So, John, if you want to take a look at this one,
sure,
I'll pass this to you. It's basically, like I said, a K98, but it has some different features. And the Polish ones, you don't see them too often, and it's a really cool gun. It's beautifully finished, and it's a very impressive gun in my opinion. But yeah, the Spanish Republican, the Republican faction of the Spanish Civil War, also known as the Loyalist faction, was the side in the Spanish Civil War of 1936 to 39 that supported the government of the Second Spanish Republic against the nationalist or rebel faction of the military rebellion. They were the republicanism, anti-clericism, anti-fascism, social liberation. They were center-left or leftist party, popular from 1936 to 39.
And that was the group that was trying to do what?
They were fighting in the Spanish Civil War because they wanted to establish a far left government in Spain. The nationalists were like, no, we don't want that. We want a military dictatorship. So ultimately, the Republicans lost, and I believe Franco was elected or took over Spain, basically. I'm not too familiar with my Spanish Civil War history, excuse me, guys, on that, but it's something you all can look up if you have time. It's a very interesting conflict, and also a lot of Mosins were used in the Spanish Civil War. Yeah. You'll see a lot of Mosins. That the biggest giveaway that a Mosin was a Spanish Civil War gun is the wire hangers that come out of the swing swivel, like the sling loops. There's wire hangers, they call them. It's like square, basically metal that you attach the slings to. And a lot of those guns are interesting because they weren't refurbed. They were just sent straight from whatever country to there, and then they weren't refurbed and they were imported. So a lot of times you could find some really cool M91s or converted M91 guns that were M9130s converted in the Balkans after. There's some really cool history to them. But they both shoot both these guns shoot the 8mm Mauser ammo. 8mm is a really powerful round. The Germans at the time, they wanted to focus more on machine gun tactics. That's why they really didn't develop a self-loading gun until later in the war. They still had the K98 as a standard infantry rifle, and they were basically using that to help supplement their machine gunners. And basically, they viewed the infantry as glorified ammo carriers for the machine gunners. That's why when the U.S. had the M1 Garand, it was such a game changer because, holy crap, these guys got semi-autos and we're still using these bolt actions. Although a very fine quality bolt action, they were still using bolt actions nonetheless. There are books written about the K98. There are books written about the history of them, about the Gewehr 88 onwards. So there would be so much to cover that I honestly don't know about. But both these guns represent pieces of my collection. I have 2 RC K98s and 2 WZ-29s. One that definitely was used as a weapon of war. It has some guy's initials carved into it on the other side.
What are the initials?
I think it is H. What is that? HS, I think.
Now, are you sure they are initials, or do they mean something?
I
Like,
have
I
no
remember
idea.
what was it? UCK?
Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. To be honest, I can't answer you. But the cool thing about the... by the way, the WZ-29, the other one that I have, that's the gun I accidentally bought. if you are frequent listeners of the program, you'll remember the joking story that...
No, it wasn't a joke.
Well, we joke about it, that I accidentally bought a gun.
It's very serious. You have an addiction.
It's not a bad addiction to have, though,
It
man.
is.
At least I don't smoke crack.
Yeah, I mean, compared to smoking crack, it's not that bad. But what, like,
But
that
anyway,
can be said about a lot of things.
But so let me tell you the detective work that I had to go into to figure out what that gun was that I bought. So I had no idea about really Mausers at the time. I was starting to get into them. I had the K98, the RC K98, and I see this gun on an auction website. And the pictures, there was only like 4 pictures, and the pictures were really blurry and they were crappy. And the gun was like really cheap, and that's what really kind of piqued my interest about it. It was a K98 that was really cheap. I'm like, all right, what gives? Condition looked used, but wasn't terrible. And then I saw that little Z in a circle stamp. I'm like, what is that? I Google it, do some Google foo, and people are like, oh, it's a Czech gun, it's this, it's that. But then when I see that sling bar on the other side, I'm like, oh, from what I could tell, that looks like a Polish gun, and it's so cheap. And I'm like, let me buy it, or let me see what the highest bid was. And then
you're talking about the one that you accidentally bought.
Yeah, this is the gun that I accidentally bought.
Well, it wasn't this one.
No.
One
This was another one.
The one that's at home.
Yeah, so I put in a high bid just to see where it was, and then nobody outbid me, so I accidentally bought it.
Okay, well, that's not the whole story.
That is the whole story.
No, you told half the story.
No. That's
that half, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you put it, so whatever. It was really cheap, whatever.
So I put in a bid. I wanted
to
see how high the bid was.
I'll tell the rest of the story.
All right, tell the rest of the story, which I don't know what else there is.
Bullshit. You left out a key detail.
What's
you
the
didn't
key
just
detail?
bid once on the gun.
No.
You bid. So you making it sound like I just bid once and whoops, I
No,
won.
I said I wanted to see what the high bid was.
Yeah. Look, maybe this is the story you told your wife. Okay, I only bid one time and oops, I won. No. What happened was he fucking bid on it and then he was outbid and he was like, well, I'll just
I
bid
wasn't
again.
outbid. There was somebody with a bid higher than me.
Yeah, that is called being outbid, my guy. Someone had their
Semantics.
someone had their max bid higher than yours. So you put a bid in and it automatically rebids their bid. Therefore, you were outbid. So, what did you do?
Put another bid.
Yeah, you put another bid. And then what happened? You got outbid again?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I think it was like a couple of bids.
And then what happened?
And then I was the high
You
bidder.
put in another bid.
Yeah, but then I was the high bidder.
Right. I think it happened 3 times.
Yeah,
You bid
something like
3
that.
times.
Yeah, because I just wanted to see what the high bid was. There was a certain point where I was going to stop, but I reached that point before.
When you won.
No. Because I'm like, all right,
Reached
you know
that
what?
point
If somebody outbids me,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bid over them. But nobody did, so it was meant to be. Listen, man. Sometimes you win, sometimes you win.
Nothing about that is a meant to be kind of thing.
Let me say this. Maybe accidentally is the wrong word. I unintentionally bought one.
Why can't you just say what it is, which is you bought a gun?
Well, yeah, that's what wound up happening. That was the result.
Yeah, but that's what was the intention as well.
It wasn't the sole intention.
You can't lie to me.
Like I said, I wanted to see what the high bid was, and then if somebody outbid me, then that's what it was.
Here's my point: is that you bid 3 times on it. You were outbid 3 times.
Yeah, because it was still stupid cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't accidentally purchase the gun. You bought the gun.
All right, we're just splitting hairs here, man.
That's not splitting hairs.
We're just splitting hairs here, my man. My man.
Oh, look, maybe Andrea will believe you because she loves you deeply. I don't love you that much.
Oh.
Not like a wife.
Anyway.
So I will call you out on the shenanigans.
Anyway. John.
Trying to change the subject.
Of course, because we have two beautiful guns sitting in front of us, and we're splitting hairs over something, that happened in the past. It is what it is. Anyway.
I'm gonna need to hear you say it one day that you intentionally bought that firearm.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna OJ the shit out of that. Deny. Wasn't me.
He won't be able to win this one.
No. But anyway, so John, you've shot my K98 before.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, you have.
Okay.
Because remember when we took our friend to the range to get certified, and I brought the K98 along. You took a couple of shots from it.
Okay.
So do you remember it at all, or was it not even that memorable?
I don't remember it. I don't remember. It was probably just a few. Maybe it was like 5 rounds.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it was probably similar to the Mosin for me.
Yeah, it is. It's similar in feel to the Mosin. The 8mm is very powerful. It's a non-rimmed round. One thing about ammunition. So ammunition is still around for these guys. The surplus ammunition is pretty much all but gone. The last stuff that I got was Ethiopian, which
what does it fire?
8mm Mauser. So you could get new production ammunition. I think PPU makes it. There's a lot of hunting rounds that are chambered in this caliber. Used to be able to get a lot of surplus for it. Stupid cheap. And like I said, I wasn't really into those guns when you were able to get that. And I'm kind of kicking myself now. But I have a bunch of Ethiopian 8mm that I picked up pre-pandemic from a website. And the one gun that I have, my other WZ-29, I was getting hang fires. I was getting dud rounds. I'm like, what the fuck is with this ammo? Ian from Forgotten Weapons did a video on the Ethiopian 8mm, and he's like, it's okay ammo. It's not the greatest. It's corrosive, but for the price, it is what it is.
I think I remember you shooting it though, and it was like real bad.
Yeah, it was
really,
hang
really bad.
Fires. Yeah,
it would be like click,
bang,
boom.
Yeah, hang fires, man. So I fired it out of my one WZ-29, the one's at home, the one that's at home, the one that's well used and well worn. I was getting dud rounds. I was getting hang fires at the ass, and I'm like, what the fuck is with this ammo? I was really thinking of getting rid of it, honestly, because I'm like, I don't want this shit. It's. So then I took one of my other K98s out, one of my Russian capture ones, and I used it. And I only had like maybe one dud round and like a few hang fires. I'm like, all right. So it was definitely my other gun. I think it's the firing pin spring that is worn out. It's not hitting the primers hard enough, so that's what's causing duds and hang fires, etc. So that gun, I think I have to put a new spring in, and they sell the springs for it. It's not bad. You can get new springs for it. I mean, the gun is like almost 100 years old at this point. It could be 100 years old, or 90 years old. So I mean, a spring, especially if it was used extensively, hey, springs wear out, things happen. So when I shot it out of my other guns, occasionally you would get a hang fire, occasionally you would get a dud round, but there was much less. I mean, when I first fired it out of that other gun, like I said, it was like 50% of the rounds were hang fires or duds. And I think that was because of the firing pin spring in the rifle. Next time I took them out, it wasn't as bad. A few hang fires, but it also teaches somebody, like when we took our friend to the range, he shot the gun and he had a hang fire experience because we tell him, if the gun doesn't go off, wait a second. Don't just be like, hey guys, swing it around. Like, keep it pointed down range. It was like kind of a good training experience almost, and then he's like, oh, that's what a hang fire is. And I think I actually got it on video. I'll look through my phone a little later. I'll post the video of the hang fire.
Just thought of something really funny.
What?
It's like he gets a squib load and then shoots, and then the gun blows up, and he's like, so that's what a squib load is.
Yeah, luckily no squibs, thankfully, but that's always a possibility with military surplus. If something doesn't sound right, if something doesn't feel right, stop, inspect. That's something we face with these old guns and this old ammo. So hang fires are really interesting. It kind of feels like you're shooting a flintlock or a musket, but the ammo, like I said, it's still out there. Some of the best 8mm surplus you could get is Romanian 8mm. That stuff was really plentiful at one point. People who had, from what I was reading online, people who have machine guns chambered in 8mm love that. They just ate it up. One thing of note, Turkish 8mm ammo is loaded extremely hot and is not to be used in 8mm self-loading semi-automatic firearms or machine guns. It will damage your gun. It'll blow your gun. It'll damage it. It's loaded super hot, and it's only meant for bolt-action rifles. Turkish 8mm Mauser. You can look up the head stamp. It has a crescent with a star, I believe. And that stuff should only be used in bolt-action rifles. So just a heads up on that. Anybody listening. Turkish 8mm, only used in bolt actions, never in semi-autos. So yeah, that with that little bit about ammo said, you could get new production ammo. It's pricey, but it's out there. And honestly, I think for somebody who really is interested in old guns like this, who's maybe started collecting Mosins like myself or other guns that will let you say a little more affordable or a little cheaper. Once you get kind of, I don't want to say bored with it, branch out, try some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
After handling this gun, John? What do you like? Does it feel different than a Mosin? How does it handle? How does it feel like when you pick it up? Does it? What are your impressions of it?
It feels a little like it was assembled better than the Mosin. But I mean, it's for me. I know it's not a Mosin, but it's just another bolt action.
Okay.
I mean, it definitely feels like it's put together better, like it's just assembled. But the quality just feels better. But there's not too much. It doesn't really shake.
Right.
Like the parts are pretty much.
Now there's some cool differences between this and let's just say other bolt action military guns like a Mosin. I'm going to say a Mosin because it's one of the most common ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mauser, the safety is a big one. It's a 3-position safety. So you have a flag safety that fire is to the left,
right?
Safe is in the middle, and then there's a disassembly safety. Another position. It's kind of like a neutral safety almost. Like you can't. Well, you could lock the gun up in this position.
The bolt locks.
Yeah, the bolt locks. Yeah. This middle position, you could take the bolt out, and it's on safe. And then the left position fires the gun.
Right.
Which is a big advantage. Also, one advantage you have of the Mauser is the cock on open. So let's just say you load a round, you go to fire, it's a dud round. You could just lift the bolt handle up and down, and that recocks the action. And then also, if you want to, let's just say, decock the gun, you can. I don't know if I wouldn't try this on a live round, but let's just say you just run the action, you want to decock it. Basically, as you close the bolt handle, I didn't do it right that time, so
didn't do it right again.
Yeah, there you go.
Pull the trigger first.
Yeah, pull the trigger first. Sorry, I don't handle these guns as much as I should, but yeah, you pull the trigger first, and then that lets down the striker,
right.
the firing pin.
Yep.
So that's another advantage too. You could safely decock as opposed to the Mosin one where you have to turn it, pull it, and turn it.
And it's a real bitch.
It's a real bitch. That's why a lot of times, not to sound like a safety Sally here or whatever, but I don't even fuck with the safety on a Mosin.
Yeah.
If it's unloaded, bolt open,
right.
Safe.
Right.
That's just
and then just exercise fucking common sense.
Right.
Like don't fucking point it at anybody.
So this one,
obviously.
So this flag safety is really good because you could totally keep the gun locked. Like when the flag is all the way over to the right, bolt's not coming out, trigger's not. You could keep one in the chamber totally fine. So that's a really ingenious kind of method.
Right.
That's one advantage that I like of this. It's built really, really nicely. Like John said, the quality is there. Early Mausers, pre-war Mausers, they have a thing with pre-war and post-war. Pre-war Mausers are beautiful. They're machined perfectly. They're deep blue. If you find an original one, not a K98, not a Russian capture. As the war went on, they got a lot simpler.
Yeah.
They realized, we can't spend as much time making these. We need to get them out the door. We need to, just get them out to soldiers. So as the war progressed, they just got simpler and simpler and simpler to the point at the end of the war where it was just like a piece of wood with an action in it. If you want, John, you could look up the I believe it's called the Volkssturm rifle. Basically, it's like the Volkssturmgewehr. It's a submachine gun, or it's an automatic rifle that is the People's Assault Rifle, which is a cool fucking name. It was made during the last months of World War II. If you look up a picture of this,
it's ugly as fucking sin, dude.
It's basically just it was just basically like a delayed gas blowback submachine gun, basically. Simple wood stocks, crude construction, but they were just making them and giving them to people.
The back, like the rear sight is just like a piece of bent up metal.
Yeah,
it's not even it looks like you can bend it down with your fingers.
Yeah, well, it was made out of really crude sheet metal and and wood.
It's funny,
but they're really rare nowadays, man.
Like the fucking the stock is super shitty. It looks like someone just cut it out of a fucking 2x4 and stuck it on the back.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much
funny.
pretty much what it was, man. And I mean, even towards, the end of the war, you had guns like the Kriegsmodell, K98, which, was the late war, I believe, version of the K98. It didn't even have a stock takedown.
I mean, it might be the
disc.
shittiest gun I've ever seen.
Oh,
it is,
that's
dude.
not nice.
No, I mean, I'm not saying it is the shittiest gun, but it definitely looks like it would be the shittiest
Very
gun I've ever seen.
Very crude.
Have you ever seen one of these?
Yeah.
Have you shot one of these?
No, God, no. They're extremely rare and they're full auto.
Yeah, but you've been to machine gun shoots.
Nah, they didn't have that there, man. This is like, that's a really rare piece, man. Really rare. Not that many, man.
They're incredibly ugly, I will say.
They are. If you guys want to know more about the different models and variations,
Reminds me of the High Point.
Is it the high point of World War II?
Yeah, it is. Fucking super fucking ugly.
Wow, way to shit on it, John.
I mean, this is the kind of thing I would expect to find like on the NYPD like Twitter that they like pulled out of a fucking
confiscated.
Yeah,
man, if they confiscate one of those,
they would just melt it.
Oh, don't tell me that.
I actually don't know if they melt it or just grind. They grind it up.
Jesus, they're destroying history, man.
I mean, to them, it's just a piece of metal,
Yeah. So, like, late in the war, they made guns like that. They made the Kriegsmodell K98. It doesn't have a disassembly disc. It has just a little hole in the butt plate. No bayonet lug. It screws retaining.
I don't even know what you would do if it had a bayonet lug.
Not that. I'm talking about the K98s.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not talking about the Volkssturmgewehr.
Okay.
I'm talking about the Kriegsmodell K98s. There's a really
I'm
good...
like fucking just hooked on how disgusting it looks.
There's a really good video made by Ian from Forgotten Weapons that shows the evolution of the K98 rifle, all the different ones as the war progressed, pre-war, and as the war progressed all the way until the Kriegsmodell. But as everyone knows, at the end of World War II, Germany was really fucking hurting, man. They were strapped for resources, supplies. They were running thin. Mm-hmm. They were just giving guns like the Volkssturm, the People's submachine gun. They were just saying, "Here, go defend your town or go defend Berlin." It was just fucking nuts, man. And that's why a lot of times the German guns command kind of such a high premium because they were the bad guys. They were the losers. Right. This stuff, if it's not a Russian capture, all of it was bringbacks. Like there was a guy that I was showing before the podcast started. From a Facebook group I belong to, actually somebody local to me who has all this German stuff, flags, pins, hats, armbands, and he was, selling it. I mean, an impressive fucking collection. And when we talk about, on one of our previous episodes, we talked about controversial collecting, as somebody who doesn't want to, obviously as somebody like me who doesn't glorify the Nazi ideology, but as somebody who sees these relics of history.
Could appreciate the history of it.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow, all of this stuff was bring back.
Right.
Like GIs had to bring this back.
Yeah.
So, or, afterwards people traded and, shipped things, but whatever. A lot of it was bring back. And, there's history behind it. And that to me is what's intriguing. These guns, even though they're covered in swastikas and whatever, they're just a piece of history that, the Germans made some really fine guns. Except John doesn't think that Volkssturm is a very fine gun.
I'm telling you, it's the high point of World War II.
The high point of World War II. Maybe that's what we should name this episode. Oh no, that would detract from the K98. We'll put that as like ugly. A little. We'll put that as like a little like.
Oh my God.
The little sidebar, like K98s
it
and
looks
the high point of World War II.
Super uncomfortable to even shoot. If you look at like.
Oh, it's a semi-automatic rifle. Excuse me, it's not fully automatic.
Oh, that means you can get one.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake, people. I thought it was full auto, but I just kind of did a quick little Google foo here.
If you look at the way the stock is just crudely attached to the back of the gun and look at the placement of the trigger, it just looks like it would be so
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a machine gun because it took STG-44 mags and it fired. I thought it was just a simple submachine gun, but it's not. It's a semi-automatic. So my apologies on that, people. Like I said, I don't know too much about German weapons, but they are very rare and they're very, very expensive if they do come up for sale. So I just like the name, the People's Assault Rifle. It's like, kind of something that somebody in the U.S. would say, like the AR-15, the People's Assault Rifle.
And just to give you guys an estimate, the estimate price on these is $20,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not going to be the type of thing that I'm going to be looking for to buy.
No,
but they're ugly as hell.
They're only bringbacks, man. And that's the crazy thing. It's just like the lengths that Germany would go through. It's like at the end of the war, it's like wow, like the British, how they made the Sten gun. What the Sten gun is?
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Well, Google foo it, John. The Sten gun was a domestically made British submachine gun that literally you could make out of
I've seen them before.
pipe hardware material. Like it's very crude but very effective. You know, they use that all through World War II.
Yeah, but this isn't like nearly as ugly.
No, what are you kidding me? The Sten gun is way uglier than the Volkssturm.
Absolutely not, dude. What? This shit's fucking cool.
Which one are you looking at?
You shot one of these, no?
No, I've never shot a Sten.
What'd you shoot at the
MP34?
Oh, okay, right.
You know, machine and pistol 34. There's different variations of the Sten. Some of them
replica.
had a wooden stock.
This is a replica.
Oh, some of them had a wooden stock, and some of them.
Yeah, the wooden stock one looks nice.
I think that's the Mark V. I think that's the Sten is the Sten Mark V has a wooden stock. But I mean, the Sten gun is so much uglier than the
Army
Volkssturm.
Sten gun. Wait, what am I on right now? Because it says it's $30, which I doubt.
No.
Yeah, this is like got to be something.
And you know what the cool
this
thing
must
is?
be like a.
Like people build these, like the parts kits are stupid cheap, and people build them up as semi-automatic carbines, which are actually pretty cool. But literally, it's just like a tube, and with like a piece of metal as a stock. Like there's no pistol grip. There's no. It was basically just the cheapest submachine gun that they can make.
The grip is like just a slice of metal. Well, like looks like as you shoot it, like it would just slice your fingers off.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's not ugly, dude. I'm telling you, the other one is way uglier.
The Sten gun is way uglier than the Volkssturm.
No way, dude. The other one is way uglier.
No, that's subjective. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Of course it is. I mean, this looks. No, dude. The other one just looks like they just took parts and just like stuck it together. This one I don't know. It just doesn't look as bad to me. Yeah, the other one looks way worse. This one doesn't look as bad.
I happen to disagree with you, but okay. At least the other gun has some wood on it for some comfort. I mean,
yeah, but if you look at the other one, like it just looks like they cut the stock off of one gun and fucking like bolted it to the other gun. They were like, "Fuck it, we just need this." Fucking cut it off and stuck it on the back with a fucking screw.
Yeah,
like this is at least this looks like they were like, "All right, let's kind of think about it." It's gonna all be fucking metal, but let's think about
pipe
it.
with a piece of metal on it.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah,
I just love that the grip is just like a fucking sharp piece of metal.
Later iterations of the Sten gun, they put a wooden stock and a pistol grip on it. You know, they made it actual, but for expediency's sake, during the war, they just kind of crudely threw it together and made it. But anyway, getting back to these beautiful K98s here, John.
Well, what more is there to say?
Well, there's two things. There's another thing that I want to say is that. If you might find one that's been sporterized, let's just say. It was really popular back in the day to sporterize these. They were a lot of bringbacks, or they were imported, they were stupid cheap, and people used to, the old FUDs used to turn military rifles into sporting guns. A lot of times, it's not, in today's world, it's not worth trying to restore one that's been cut, or depending on how it was cut, and made into a hunting gun, let's just say. That, to me, is forever hunting gun. Sometimes you'll see a K98 that has what's known as a duffel cut. Basically, they cut the stock and disassemble it in order to fit it into a GI's duffel bag, hence duffel cut. Duffel cuts are repairable by somebody who knows what they're doing. There's excellent videos on YouTube by Anvil Gunsmithing, Mark Novak. He shows a couple of videos of duffel cut repairs on different guns. Not a how-to, but basically how he does it, and he takes you along kind of for the journey. You can definitely get it repaired. If that's the only thing that's wrong with a gun, if it's a bringback, I would say go for it. If it's a non-matching gun and the stock was messed up, you could get another K98 stock that's not going to match, obviously, but they are out there. The biggest problem I had with this gun was things were really, like the front barrel band, the nose band was so tight, and you really got to be careful with these guns. This one has a repair made by the Russians or the Germans on the top hand, on the upper handguard. So sometimes the stocks are a little fragile. That's one thing to be careful of. You can see there's a little crack here, and then they put a piece of wood kind of.
Let me see.
So they put a piece of wood kind of dovetailed.
Can't see that far.
I know. I'm handing it to you. You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They put a piece of wood dovetailed in it. So sometimes the top handguard on my other one is loose because it was not probably original to that gun. So there's things to know about with the
fucking leaking, whatever.
Well, that's the shellac that they just
It's just fucking heavy there.
Yeah, Ivan went a little heavy on the shellac. So to me, it just I like the Russian capture guns better.
You know what I did notice the difference between these two guns?
What?
And I don't know if it's just because the spring is not as strong in
magazine.
This one, you have to push the spring down to be able to close the bolt. And look at that one.
Yeah, this
that
one
not so
you don't
much.
have to because it has an angle on the follower of the magazine. It has an angle that allows you to close.
It's just like one of those like little differences, you know.
Yeah, no, that is true. That's something I didn't even notice before. This one does have an angle on the magazine follower that allows the bolt to go over.
Yeah.
To
I wonder if that's like, you know, I wonder if that's like indicative to each gun. Like,
well, it's a design feature probably of the Polish guns.
Right. Well, that might be a good way to distinguish one gun over the other, like, if you can't for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the Polish guns are very distinguished. Like I said, the big giveaway is the stock, the sling bar on the stock. The other one is the front sight, has these kind of wings to the left and the right. This one, for example, doesn't have a sight hood on it. So some of the K98s don't have sight hoods on them. It's like a little piece of metal that goes over it. Some of them do. The RC K98s are notorious for them being removed. I don't know why. Excuse me. That and the action screws or the retaining screws that hold the action into the stock. Oftentimes the secondary screws were removed. I think the Russians consider that like a military thing. I don't know. But when these guns were imported, you used to be able to just get those parts and, you know, make it whole again, so to speak. Like I said, though, this one doesn't have the cutout on the side of the front stock on the front sight for a sight hood. So some of them do, some of them don't. That was depending on who made them and the time period, etc. So, the biggest, like I said, the biggest giveaways that one is Polish is the winged front sight ears. The stock has the sling bar, the two sets of sling swivels, and that Z in a circle, unless the receiver wasn't scrubbed and it says FB Radom, you know, WZ-29 on it, then you know it's Polish.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Russian guns to me represent a gun that was actually used in combat, a gun that could have been, you know, on the Eastern Front. Again, I, you know, buy the gun, not the story, but, you know, historically, these guns Russia did capture. Russia did, you know, reclaim, and they did refurb. So these guns definitely saw some service of some sort, in my opinion. And to me, as somebody who collects the guns that maybe aren't the prettiest or maybe aren't all matching because they do represent actual use historically, you know, that to me is something that I really look for. Obviously, if I could have a mint condition, beautiful K98, I would love that too, but I'd be afraid to shoot it. You know, I wouldn't want to, I would shoot it, but I would be afraid to because we spoke about that. I'm
giving you such a look right now.
Well, I know, and that's what I'm getting at. It's like, you know, a gun that is that beautiful, like I would love to shoot, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I don't want to be the one to fuck it up.
This just goes back to what I was saying, and I don't even know what episode it was.
Yeah,
but
it was a few episodes ago.
But shoot your guns.
I do.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, like I said, one that's in that beautiful of a condition, I would take out my other guns.
What did you say? You said shoot your guns. I said you don't have to if you don't want to.
Right.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
I think that all guns should be shootable, but, you know, like I said,
you were saying don't buy a gun not to shoot it, basically.
Well, exactly, yeah. I think that, like, obviously if a gun is chrome-plated and a presentation gun, yeah, that's one that it goes.
Yeah, but I also think
box.
there's nothing wrong with buying a very nice, like, a beautiful spotless piece that's just fucking incredible that you just don't want to shoot. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
You're still giving it a home, you know, so to say, in a situation where it's being appreciated. It's just not being fired.
Yeah, I know, but to me, it's like I think all guns should be able to be fired. All guns
they can be. They
should,
just,
because then you might as well just buy like a wall hanger at that point.
I mean, it's like buying a really old car and not driving it. Like one that's like really like not like.
Well, yeah, I don't think that should be the case either. I think you should drive.
No, I know, but and I think most people do.
Yeah.
But there's fucking museum pieces that people just don't drive, you know, and
because it's
like,
not practical. If you have a large enough collection,
it's drivable and it can drive and everything on it works, but people just don't drive them.
Right, but the point is, if they bought that car to specifically not drive it, it's like,
well, they bought it to restore it.
Well, yeah, to restore it to driving condition.
Perhaps.
Yeah. But, you know,
it's a personal preference.
It is. It is. And to me, like I said, I would love to have a pristine, mint, all-matching K98.
Yeah.
Number one, I can't afford that.
So what do they go for?
Oh, God, like thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like an original, all-matching. You know, sometimes you can find a deal, but a lot of times definitely over $1,000.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me is like, well, I can't really afford that, but I can get a really cool piece of history that was used, captured, whatever. So to me, that represents more of my collecting interest.
I wonder if anybody has ever gone to like garage sales. You know, people go to garage sales and they ask like for shit that's not actually at the garage sale. Like, oh, do you have broken jewelry? Things
I
like
do that all the time.
Like, you go to garage sales and you say, do you have any firearms?
Well, firearms, yes and no. Like for example, my father is really big into garage selling and let's just say keeping and holding on to items, and
AKA,
yeah, order. And a lot of times he'll call me and say, "Hey Taylor, I'm at this garage sale. They have some ammo."
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, what do they have?"
Yeah.
So and then he'll ask, "Oh, do you have anything else? Do you have any guns or ammo or whatever?"
Yeah.
And I don't stop at many garage sales just because of it's just I don't.
Yeah, like I always tell myself, hey, like it would be cool to stop at garage sales, see what people have, but then like you drive past and you're just like, I just can't do it. Like,
here's all my shit, buy it.
Well,
I know. Growing up, I did go to a lot of garage sales with my father and flea markets, and back before the internet, it was a really interesting way.
It was a good way.
Yeah, like we used to go to this big flea market every weekend that was in Nassau County.
Aqueduct?
No, behind a movie theater on Sunrise Highway in Valley Stream.
Okay.
Every weekend I'd be there with my dad, and I actually my amplifier, my guitar amp. Not to get too much off on a tangent. My Mesa Boogie Mark IV guitar
came
amplifier.
from a fucking...
Yep, the
You
guy...
had to replace a tube in it, right?
No, I didn't have to replace
okay.
anything. The guy thought it was a PA amp because it had a graphic EQ on it. We got it for $150. Mind you, that's like over $1,000 guitar amplifier.
Yeah, right.
So back before the internet was really... I mean, the internet was a thing, but it wasn't like you didn't have smartphones. You couldn't just look something up. My father had to call on his little old Nokia to a friend of his. He's like, "Hey, what's a Mesa Boogie?" And he's like, "Buy it."
Yeah, right.
And then I wound up with it. But, in other states, in other states where gun buying and selling is a lot less, I don't say regulated, but more freely, people sell guns at flea markets all the time. I see shit on Facebook that people post in collecting groups. "Oh, I picked up this old single shot 12 gauge at a flea market for $100 or $50.
Right.
So, if you ask...
I'm just curious, like, if, like, I went to a couple garage sales and just like, hey, like, look, do you have guns, ammunition?
Yeah, guns or ammunition.
Well, I wonder if that's, like, weird to approach somebody about.
No, I mean, you could just say, "Oh, do you, I'm always in the... I collect old firearms."
Right.
Yeah, do you have any old guns or ammo that you want to sell or get rid of?
Yeah. And then you'd have
legally.
to go about, like,
background
bringing
check.
them to the fucking... having that person go with you to a fucking
Right.
place.
Or if it's, an estate sale. A lot of times estate sales, man. Like, I'll tell you a story. A friend of my father's and I used to do those storage room cleanouts.
Oh, okay.
And he used, before it was really popular on TV, this was his business. That's what he did. And oftentimes he would come across firearms in storage rooms. And he'd call me and be like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Well, it's this or this." And then he would go take care of it. If it was, something he had to turn into the police or whatever, he would call me. But it's a lot more common than you think to just find guns in storage rooms or find guns in people's houses that they didn't know about or that.
What's the legalities now of finding, like, if you bought a storage unit and you found like a rifle? Because in theory, it needs to be transferred.
It's yours. Yes and no. I don't know what the specific policy is on it, but technically, if you bought it, I don't know if you have to surrender it. I never followed through with that
because it's a rifle,
right? But,
like
but the problem is, let's just say if somebody reported that gun lost or stolen,
right,
and then you buy it in a storage room. I don't know. He just called me to say, "Hey, what is this? Is it something illegal or is it what?" And then he went from there. Whatever he did with it,
there must be a way. I think probably like especially with handguns, let's say
handguns. You got.
Well, you'd call let's say you'd call the Suffolk County Police Department. They'd probably come voucher it, and then when you went to pick it up, they do a background check on you, make sure that you can actually own.
Well,
that gun.
not only that, but if it was lost or stolen, what if the gun was reported lost or stolen?
Right,
and
but then you would say to them, "Hey, look, I bought a storage unit. I found this in it."
I'm sure that's what
they would
did.
Take it. I'm sure they would run the numbers and make sure.
I don't know
because they did that. I'm sorry to interrupt. They did that with my Mosins when I had a voucher. They took them. They ran the serial numbers, all that shit. Make sure they weren't using any fucking crimes
or stolen
or whatever. Yeah, and then when I went and picked them back up, I had to do a background check. I had to get shit notarized.
That is so weird, man. I remember you telling me this whole story. I'm like, they were your guns to begin with.
They were my guns to begin. Well, but it was they don't know now. I might be a felon. But what was weird is
you walking up with a shield.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. I had my credentials with me, so it's a little weird.
Yeah. That's the thing that I don't get. They should have just been like, "Hey, here you go."
That's a checkbox for them. I'm telling you, man. It's just like they have to do it. They have to say they did it. Yeah, of course. It's like anything else.
Yeah. But so the thing with the storage rooms, it's like, or even flea markets or garage sales, in other parts of the country, it's super common to sell guns at garage sales. You know, it's nothing to bat an eye at if you got a hunting gun on a table, and that to me is something that I think should be normalized. I mean, unfortunately, you can't really do that on Long Island. You just kind of have to ask around. But in other parts of our mutual friend that we took to the range actually texted me the other day. He's upstate visiting family.
Okay.
Upstate. And he's like, hey, I'm going to check out some gun shops up here to see if they have any 223 because he's building himself an AR-15.
Sure.
So I'm like, oh, good luck. So he's like, hey, no stores around here had any, but my grandpa, who I was visiting, knew a guy who's selling some out of his barn. And I'll show I'll show you the picture that he sent me. Basically, this guy was selling 223. He had my friend said,
9mm?
No, I don't know, man. But
Damn,
basically,
why wouldn't you
bought,
ask for me? You know I'm looking for 9mm.
I didn't even think of it, bro. He texted me yesterday, and I told him I was supposed to get back to him with something. I was with the baby.
Let me see.
So yeah, he bought it. The guy said he basically scooped it out of a barrel and put it in bags. He's like, is this illegal? I'm like, well, as long as he didn't manufacture. Well, the whole thing is, if he didn't manufacture the ammo himself, then it's fine. If he's just selling ammo that he bought.
Right.
If he's selling ammo that he manufactured, technically he needs a manufacturer of ammo license.
It doesn't look like it's
right.
a rework.
It's just military. It looks like military 55 grain, nothing special. But he's like, yeah, I had to go to this barn down this dirt road. And I'm like, that's the kind of people you want to buy shit from. I've done that before. Yeah, that's the kind of shit.
Not New York. I was out of state. I bought ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so he's like, the guy only limited it to 50 at a time, 50 rounds. So he paid $30 for 50 rounds at 60 cents.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? But compared to what the going rate is, and this is what I was saying about an episode or two ago about the pandemic stuff.
Right.
You network with people, you find people that aren't these shops that are taking advantage of people.
Right.
And you kind of work through it. Like he got me some parts, and I'm going to barter him some ammo. It's kind of, we're just all helping each other out here.
Sure.
So, 60 cents a round for now, it's a good price for right now. Dude, on Long Island, they're going for $80 to $1 a round.
So is 9mm.
Yeah. So he got 223 for 60 cents, which is double what it should be, in my opinion, but considering everything that's going on. And this is a guy that just got into firearms, has no ammunition at all. So I told him, look, like, don't jump on the first thing that comes to you. But honestly, I could see him going for that. I'm not giving him shit for that at all.
It looks like he only bought 50 rounds. You said?
Yeah, he bought 50 rounds. No, and you know what? Like I said, I told him, I'm gonna barter him some ammo of me, and I'm not gonna bend him over and take advantage. So,
sure, you won't.
Why are you giving me that look?
I know you.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You'll be.
No, not at all. He bought me. He bought me two spur grips for AR-15s.
Yeah.
So I wanted to change out the grips that I have to spur grips.
Sure.
So I don't like the grips that I have on there now. I have the bore grips.
Okay.
So I'm putting spur grips on them, which obviously is compliant guns. It's, it's just,
you won't be bending them over per se.
No. Basically, the grips were like $25 a piece. So he bought me two, so I'm going to give him $50 worth of ammo. So even, if he paid 60 cents a round for that, even if I gave it to him for 40 or 50 cents a round.
Well, you're giving him to $50 in ammo in now prices?
Yeah. Well, not now prices. No,
because then you'd be bending him over.
He's my best friend. I'm not gonna bend him over, but it's still gonna be. He's gonna make out, and I have these boxes of 100 that I got from Walmart, Federal 223. Yeah. So I'll just give him a couple of those, whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
So get him set up. He actually bought a really cool kit from Palmetto, which I know we're getting a little off topic from K98s, but this is what I was talking about with the pandemic, buying and all that. The upper that he bought was one of the Palmetto premium cold hammer forged chrome line barrels, 18-inch, and he's going to kind of make like a DMR SPR target gun out of it. Mm-hmm. And chrome lined, like I told him, like if I were to build an 18-inch gun, this is what I would buy.
Yeah.
And he's like, cool. And unfortunately now Palmetto has raised prices on things due to demand and supply, whatever. So, the upper was a premium price. I think it was like $600 or $700.
Okay.
And, he got the lower locally, and he's building it compliant, whatever. And
I still have a lower.
Yeah, you need to work on that. Well, now's not the good time to build that.
No, I'll do it after everything. I don't care.
Yeah. So I have a lower too that I need to build up. I have one sitting in the safe, but I already have like the target gun. I have the regular AR, the little smaller one per se, the 16-inch gun. So it's like, to me, it's like, which we'll do an AR-15 episode soon enough. It's going to be kind of an interesting one because there's a lot to talk about.
Maybe after the pandemic bullshit ends and all that, we could do one of like me building out the gun.
That would be
like
cool.
a little internet series of like what we did each day.
That would be cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, certain things now are decently priced, but other things are very pricey.
Right.
And it depends on what you want to do. But I think that's a really good idea. Jot that down.
Okay. Well, we won't forget.
Yeah. So finishing up this episode on K98s. If you want to get into other types of guns, maybe more intensive collecting, because this is more intensive than just Mosins. Like Mosins,
this is probably like what I would say intermediate level.
Yeah, intermediate to advanced, because German collectors are very anal, for lack of a better word, you know. Mm-hmm. And there's so many little details, and so many different models, and this and that, and you know, you're gonna wind up buying books. You're gonna wind up spending hours on forums. You're gonna wind up, you know, knowing all these little markings and all these little details. I don't know them all, but I just, you know, that's why I like the RC guns, because it's like, you know what you're getting. It's a $600 K98 that was used and refurbed by the Russians. You're not buying one with a death's head on it, SS runes. You're not, you know, and you can, there's so many different variations and so many different factories. If you really want to get into collecting these things, it's really cool. And if you guys that are listening have any cool K98s you want to share pictures of or talk about, put it on the New York Gun Guys Facebook page. I made a post the other day, and I put a video up of me shooting that little TAC 14 that I had. That's an older video, pre-COVID, so, you know, no mask and whatever. But I thought it was pretty cool, and I'm like, oh, you know, hey, we just talked about this. I had a video. Let me post it up. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you guys have any pictures or videos of shooting guns, I know one member posted a video of his daughter shooting a gun. It looked like at the Nassau range, indoor range. That was really cool, man. I think his name is Michael. And so feel free to post up, man. Like I said, I kind of want to make this podcast like a little community, people helping people, advice, you know, whatever. It's the best of our knowledge. I don't want it to be some sort of pretentious group or some Wild West, but you know, we're not the most knowledgeable guys, but we like to definitely talk and interact and you know, gain knowledge from people. Right. I mean, I belong to some really good collecting groups on Facebook, and the knowledge that these people have are insane. Like with that Sniper Mosin. I mean, immediately people were you know, posting back and forth about it, whatever. Right. And I posted to military surplus pages on Facebook, K98 pages, about these guns, saying, hey, how do I do this? Or what does this stamping mean? Or, you know, I that's how you learn. People talking with people. It's like the gun show, but online. I wish we could sell buy on Facebook, but whatever. So, yeah, if you have any cool K98s or German small arms, or if you happen to have a Volkssturm rifle, post a picture of it. And like I said, I thought it was a machine gun, but it's really just a semi-auto.
Don't worry, no one's gonna crucify you for it. You made a mistake. It's not a big deal.
I know.
I know you're sweating it right now. You really are.
That guy Taylor doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, man.
Nobody has ever done that. Oh. No one has ever done that. More or less, and except for the guy who said we need to lube it up.
Oh yeah, lube it up.
Some guy said that I don't know what I'm talking about once about a law, even though. Okay,
yeah, whatever. The internet,
or whatever you say, buddy.
The internet. Peoples.
Now that you're gonna wish it into existence, people are gonna fucking call you out on it just to be a dick.
Oh, it is what it is. I don't know.
You know what?
Like the first episode,
call him out on it.
Like the first episode when I called the Chinese Type 54 T-33.
Yeah, and you like texted me like you woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, like I fucked up. Like dude, like okay, it's not that big of a deal.
I'm a little self-critical when it comes to this shit.
No, you don't have to be. It's not that big of a deal.
I know.
All right, well, that's it for this episode. Everybody check us out on Facebook, Instagram, like us, share us, comment, get involved on the page, please. We'd love to see you. Check out all the other episodes on all the podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We really appreciate everybody listening. Continue to listen. Please share us, show your friends, listen to us, even if, you know, you don't like our podcast that much, you should still listen to it.
Just put it on the background while you're doing housework.
Yeah. And definitely leave us some feedback. We love feedback. You want? No, I thought you were like giving me like.
I was just moving the mic.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's it for now, guys. We really appreciate everybody being here, and we will see you next time. And as always, be safe.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode of the New York Gun Guys podcast. If you guys enjoyed the show, check out our previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find a podcast. We have new episodes every Monday and Friday, so check us out. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at NYGunGuys. Check us out. Give us a like, give us a follow, share it. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, stay safe.